He moved silently through the entrance hall, head down, guiding the cleaning cart, as though merely being present in a tower of steel and aspiration required an apology. In this structure where seven-figure deals were finalized behind reinforced doors, there existed a man whom nobody perceived, a black man, unseen in a realm of radiance. Yet it was he, Marcus Bennett, who accomplished the unthinkable. Because the young girl whom everyone in the facility dreaded, the daughter of billionaire Rachel Montgomery, was unreachable. That child, Sophie Montgomery, had once been the joy of the entire enterprise. Now, there remained only quiet. 11 caregivers had arrived and departed. Mental health professionals had surrendered. She shrieked when shown compassion, wept when anyone made contact, and sealed her spirit behind unseen barriers. Until one apparently unremarkable afternoon, Marcus was cleaning the polished floor near the lift area when he detected a quiet whimper behind a pillar. He paused, placed the cleaning tool aside, and approached closer. Then he lowered himself slowly, cautiously, as though worried about shattering something delicate. From the front of his uniform, he retrieved a tiny object, something that appeared commonplace, but somehow caused the entire universe to pause. And then, astonishingly, the child ceased weeping. On the 27th floor of Montgomery Technologies, in the center of Chicago, the transparent walls mirrored the illumination of the entire metropolis beneath. Rachel Montgomery remained still, her deep brown fingers shaking as they grazed the rim of her computer. Her natural hair, typically arranged in a sophisticated bun, was tied back plainly today, exposing the weariness in her dark eyes. On the display was the 10th mental health assessment about her daughter, Sophie. Subject: fully rejects unfamiliar individuals. Acute PTSD indicators. No reaction to treatment. Medical intervention suggested. Rachel gradually shut the computer. Not this time. At 43, the CEO of a $3.4 billion pharmaceutical corporation, a black woman who had demolished every obstacle, now remained helpless before an 8-year-old child. Since the day Thomas Montgomery, her spouse, perished in an aircraft accident 4 months ago, Sophie had transformed into a phantom of herself. Those eyes, merely 8 years old, held an emptiness most grown people would never choose to confront. 4 months prior, Sophie had been the brightness of this workspace. She rushed in, holding an illustration. "Mother, see, I sketched us, you, Father, and me." Thomas chuckled, his resonant voice saturating the space as he raised his daughter. "Do you realize your mother is the most intelligent woman on earth?" "I realize that," Sophie giggled, her brown locks bouncing. "But Father's the greatest." Now only the drone of the climate control persisted. Rachel entered the designated room, created for Sophie. In the distant corner, Sophie sat hunched, her lovely brown complexion appearing nearly ashen in the faint illumination, gripping an aged toy, the final present from her father. "Sophie, darling," Rachel knelt down. "Today we're meeting a new specialist." "No," the cry pierced the space. "I don't want any specialists. I want Father returned." The toy sailed across the room. Rachel became motionless, her hands shaking. A woman who could manage a worldwide corporation didn't understand how to embrace her own daughter. For 4 months, she had attempted everything. 11 caregivers resigned, 10 therapists unsuccessful. Every expert documented the identical phrase: "This child requires time," or "something extraordinary." But Rachel Montgomery no longer trusted in extraordinary things. 5 a.m. The aged residence in the South Side lay covered in shadows. Marcus Bennett deactivated the alarm and rose. 40 years old, but he appeared no less than a decade older. Silver touches marked both sides of his closely trimmed hair. His deep brown eyes contained grooves carved by wakeful nights. He entered the adjacent room, photographs attached to the surface. Images of a young black boy with luminous eyes and an absent front tooth, Isaiah. Marcus stood motionless. Every dawn, he stopped before the biggest photograph, Isaiah grinning, embracing a plush puppy. "Good evening, my young son," he murmured, even though the sun was ascending. Then he silently shut the door, bearing that recognizable burden in his chest. 7 years before, the modest residence had been filled with joy. "Father, see, I constructed a fortress." 6-year-old Isaiah sat encircled by building blocks. Marcus knelt down smiling. "It's magnificent. My son's a brilliant designer. Then I'll construct a fortress for you to reside in." "For me? Why is that?" "Because you merit it. You're the finest father on earth." He was unaware it would be the final occasion he heard that joy. Now, in the crowded train car, Marcus sat quietly wearing his dark blue janitorial uniform. He opened his weathered fabric bag. Inside was a cloth container, his entire universe: homemade playthings, a mended teddy bear, a fabric bunny, a small wooden vehicle. Previously, Marcus had been an early education instructor. He was wed to Diana Bennett, a medical professional. They had Isaiah, and though existence was humble, their small residence brimmed with joy. Each evening, Marcus would share bedtime tales with Isaiah. Long ago, there was a bunny who couldn't leap, but he didn't surrender. He trained every day. And one day, he bounded higher than all the others. Isaiah tilted his head. "Father, why didn't the bunny surrender?" "Because he understood that what makes us distinctive isn't what we excel at, it's that we never surrender." He was unaware that was the final evening he'd ever share a tale with Isaiah. The collision occurred on an autumn afternoon. Diana was transporting Isaiah home from lessons. A vehicle lost command, a catastrophic impact. Diana survived, Isaiah didn't. Marcus received the notification while instructing. He raced to the medical center, his heart racing. When the physician emerged, one glance revealed everything. Marcus fell to the ground. Diana never pardoned herself. "It's my responsibility. I ended our son's life." "No, Diana, it was a collision. I should have perished instead." 7 months afterward, he awoke to discover a note. "Dear Marcus, I can't exist with this suffering anymore. I apologize, I care for you, but I must depart." Diana, she departed and never returned. He lost his son, then his spouse. And following that, he gradually started to lose himself. He couldn't return to instructing. He resigned. In the years afterward, Marcus did everything: server, operator, transporter, whatever provided income, until he secured a position at Apex Cleaning, a janitorial enterprise. "Why do you desire this position?" the supervisor inquired. "Because nobody perceives the janitor, and I don't wish to be perceived anymore." But there was one thing Marcus never surrendered. Every evening he sat alone sewing pieces of material, shaping fragments of wood, creating playthings the way he once did for Isaiah. Perhaps because when those small things formed, he sensed Isaiah was still present. Tuesday afternoon, the Montgomery Technologies structure gleamed under the diminishing sunlight. Marcus had been operating there for 3 months, quietly cleaning floors, removing waste receptacles. Nobody addressed him by name. They simply recognized him as the janitor on the 27th floor. But Marcus perceived the small things. He perceived the young black girl who always sat isolated in the executive corridor, gripping a deteriorated toy. She didn't glance at anyone, didn't communicate. Those eyes, Marcus identified them immediately. They were the eyes of a child who had forfeited a portion of her spirit. The identical expression Isaiah had. Wednesday afternoon, 2 p.m. Marcus was cleaning the polished floor when he detected it, a faint whimper concealed beneath the climate control's drone. He became motionless, listened. The sound originated from behind the final marble pillar, a concealed corner with no surveillance equipment. He wavered, but that cry pulled something profound inside him. Recollections of Isaiah trembling through terrors. Before he comprehended it, Marcus's feet were advancing toward the sound. Behind the pillar, Sophie Montgomery sat hunched, face concealed in her arms. Her small body trembled. Marcus halted, maintaining a courteous distance. He uttered nothing. Then, gradually, he knelt. Sophie didn't glance up, but her respiration altered. She could sense someone present. Marcus stayed quiet. He simply sat beside her, motionless. A gentle stillness occupied the space between them. He reached into his garment and retrieved a small teddy bear. He had assembled it the evening before. Worn, brown, awkward stitches, 2 button eyes, shiny yet melancholy. Marcus positioned the bear on the ground, halfway between them. No utterances, no movements, just existence. Time appeared to halt. Sophie gradually raised her head. Her eyes were swollen. She observed the bear, then at the quiet man. Marcus didn't smile. He simply acknowledged once, gently. The child extended, trembling, and contacted the bear. Then she embraced it firmly. The material was gentle, warm, and for the first occasion in 4 months, Sophie ceased weeping. Not because someone instructed her to cease, but because finally she sensed, permitted to be vulnerable, to suffer, without being evaluated. Marcus remained there, silent. After several minutes he quietly rose, collected his cleaning tool, and departed. Up on the 27th floor, Rachel Montgomery observed the surveillance recording, the image of a black man in a blue uniform, kneeling beside her daughter, positioning an awkward, small teddy bear on the ground, made her chest constrict painfully. Tears flowed down her face. She had just witnessed something extraordinary. And the man who executed it was someone nobody had perceived for 3 months. The following dawn, Rachel arrived early. She seized the telephone. "I require information on the janitor from the 27th floor. Male, late 30s to 40s, brown complexion. You must attend Marcus Bennett. He's with Apex Cleaning. I desire his record now." An hour afterward, the record appeared. Name, Marcus Bennett, 40. Education, bachelor's in early childhood education. Previous occupation, early education instructor, 2010-2017. Reason for departing, not specified. Current position, janitor, 2018, present. An early education instructor turned janitor. Something didn't align. That afternoon, something unanticipated occurred. Sophie, the child who hadn't departed her room in 4 months, opened the door and emerged. She simply held her teddy bear and descended the stairs, one slow step at a time. In the downstairs lounge, Marcus was wiping the beverage tables. Sophie remained about 5 meters distant, embracing the bear firmly. Marcus turned around. Their eyes met. Then Sophie advanced closer and sat down on the ground, 3 steps distant. Marcus uttered nothing. He continued cleaning. Several minutes afterward, he sat down. From his garment, he retrieved a plastic bottle cover and positioned it gently between them. Long ago, there was a tiny bottle cover. Everyone discarded it because they believed it had no worth. But the cover understood a secret. Sophie's eyes expanded. "What secret?" she murmured, her voice unsteady. Marcus glanced up, surprised. It was the first occasion he'd detected her communicate. He smiled gently. The cover understood that its worth wasn't about how others perceived it, but how it perceived itself. Was the cover melancholy? Marcus paused. He drew a slow respiration and acknowledged. Yes, very melancholy. But then it encountered a companion, and that companion demonstrated it that being melancholy doesn't indicate you're vulnerable. "Are you melancholy too?" He smiled faintly. "I used to be very melancholy, and sometimes I remain." "Why?" "Because I forfeited someone very significant." She glanced up, murmuring, "I forfeited my father too." Marcus's heart constricted. "I understand, and I'm deeply sorry." Then they sat there in silence, 2 spirits. One man who had forfeited his child, and one young girl who had forfeited her father, sat side by side, sharing their suffering in quiet understanding. Up on the 27th floor, Rachel observed the surveillance feed, tears flowing. Her daughter was communicating, for the first occasion in 4 months. 4 days afterward, the investigative report landed on Rachel's desk. Marcus Bennett, wed to Diana Bennett, 2011, 1 son, Isaiah Bennett, September 22, 2017. Severe traffic collision. Diana was operating when struck by a vehicle. Diana survived. Isaiah, age 6, perished 4 hours afterward. Marcus requested indefinite absence. never returned to instructing. Diana admitted twice for severe depression and self-harm intent. May 2018, she departed residence. Marcus relocated to South Side, existing isolated. Rachel covered her mouth, tears welling. Now she comprehended. Marcus wasn't simply a man who happened to assist Sophie. He was a father attempting to rescue another child, because he couldn't rescue his own. That afternoon, Rachel summoned Marcus to her workspace. "Sit down," she stated gently. He sat, hands folded rigidly. Rachel slid the folder across the desk. "I understand about Isaiah." Marcus became motionless. She continued, "I apologize. No father merits to endure that." Marcus uttered nothing. Rachel drew a respiration. "I forfeited my spouse 4 months ago. Aircraft crash. Sophie and I were waiting at the terminal. Then the telephone rang. No survivors." Marcus glanced up. "I'm deeply sorry," he stated quietly. "Thank you. But I comprehend your suffering, and I believe you comprehend Sophie's." Marcus's voice became low. "She senses like portion of her perished, and nothing can occupy that space." Rachel acknowledged, tears shimmering. "Yes, but you accomplished what nobody else could. You made her sense permitted to suffer, to weep, to recall." Marcus exhaled gradually. "That's all I ever wished someone had informed me after Isaiah perished. Everyone stated, 'Be resilient, advance.' But I didn't wish to advance. I desired to mourn. I desired to recall him." Rachel wiped her eyes. "You still create playthings for Isaiah, don't you?" Marcus appeared surprised. "How do you understand 'I perceived'? Every plaything you've given Sophie, homemade, assembled with attention?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Yes. I create one every evening so I can sense like he's still present." "And now you give them to Sophie. Perhaps that's what Isaiah would desire. Perhaps that's how he still assists other children, through me." Rachel rose and advanced to the window. "Marcus, I'd like to request you something." "For my daughter." Marcus glanced up. "What is it?" "What is?" "Remain, not as a janitor, as Sophie's companion, someone she can trust." He wavered. "But I'm not a therapist. I have no credentials. You have something no qualification can instruct, spirit and comprehension." Marcus sat in silence. Then he acknowledged, "I'll remain, but on one stipulation." "What stipulation?" "I don't desire Sophie to believe I'm replacing her father. I'm simply a companion, someone who listens." Rachel smiled gently. "That's precisely what I desire too." Marcus rose and extended his hand. Rachel accepted it. Not the handshake of a CEO and employee, but of two people learning to exist again after forfeiture. Rumors dispersed through Montgomery Technologies like wildfire. The CEO employed a janitor to attend for her daughter. The board of directors initiated an emergency assembly. Patricia Wells, a senior board member, rose. "Rachel, this decision is incomprehensible. Mr. Bennett has no certification. If anything goes wrong, this corporation faces serious liability." Rachel's tone stayed calm. "He assisted my daughter," Victor Chen interjected. "Are you aware he forfeited a child? That could influence how he interacts with Sophie." Rachel rose, her voice sharp as steel. "I understand precisely what occurred to him, and that's precisely why he comprehends my daughter better than anyone." A few others started to communicate, but Rachel cut them off. "That's sufficient. This is my decision. Anyone who disagrees is free to depart." Silence descended. Patricia sighed. "Rachel, you're acting out of sentiment, not reasoning." Rachel met her gaze. "Sentiment? For 4 months my daughter hasn't communicated. All your specialists have unsuccessful. Yet one man, no title, no qualification, made her smile. So don't communicate to me about reasoning. Reasoning can't rescue my child." Nobody stated another utterance. 2 weeks afterward, the storm struck. The front page proclaimed, "Billionaire Rachel Montgomery employs janitor to attend for daughter, controversy or desperation." Within hours, digital platforms exploded. Supporters documented, "She's simply a mother attempting to rescue her child. You don't require a qualification to heal, you require spirit." Critics responded, "This is a controversy. That man could be dangerous. 4 days afterward, the Chicago PD received an anonymous complaint. That afternoon, 2 police officers arrived. Marcus was in the lounge with Sophie, sharing a tale, when a firm voice sounded. "Mr. Marcus Bennett." He turned. "Yes? We require to communicate with you," Sophie startled. "Who are they, Uncle Marcus?" Marcus knelt. "It's acceptable, darling. They simply wish to ask questions." But panic flashed across her face. She gripped his hand. "No, they'll remove you away just like they removed my father." The lounge descended silent. The officers stepped closer. "Sir, you'll require to accompany us." Another voice rang out, strong, commanding. "What's occurring here? Rachel Montgomery?" "Mrs. Montgomery, we received a complaint." "Complaint about what?" "That's confidential." Rachel stepped forward. "Mr. Bennett operates for me. If you desire to ask questions, you'll proceed through our legal team. Ma'am, we're simply performing our duty, and I'm performing mine, protecting my employee. Without a court directive, you have no right to remove him." A tense silence. Finally, one officer murmured, "We'll return." They departed. That evening, Marcus went to Rachel's workspace. "I believe I should depart." "No, I'm causing difficulty for you and for Sophie. You're assisting her. That's all that matters." Marcus shook his head. "They won't halt Rachel. They'll investigate into my past. And when they do, they'll transform me into a monster." Rachel stepped closer. "Then we'll combat." "I don't desire to combat. I simply desire Sophie to be protected. She won't be protected if you depart. You understand that?" Marcus uttered nothing. And in that quiet moment, he comprehended. Departing was no longer an option. It was a Wednesday evening. Rachel was in her workspace. The clock displayed 9 p.m. Her telephone rang. "Mrs. Montgomery? Sophie, she's vanished." Rachel became motionless. "What did you just state?" "She was in her room. I went to the kitchen a few minutes. When I returned, she's vanished." Rachel contacted Marcus immediately. "Sophie's missing." Marcus slammed the brakes. "How long?" "About 40 minutes. Was she bearing anything?" "Just her teddy bear and drawing pad." He already understood where she was. The aged Montgomery Technologies headquarters, the structure where Thomas once operated. Long ago, Sophie had inquired, "Uncle Marcus, where did my father used to operate?" "At the aged structure near Riverside Park." "I desire to go there someday." "That's where his recollections are, correct?" He accelerated through the quiet streets. The aged tower appeared, its corroded sign displaying Montgomery Technologies. He slipped in through the side entrance. "Sophie, where are you?" No response, only his reverberation. He ascended, 2nd floor, 3rd, then, on the 4th, Thomas's aged workspace. He observed a faint illumination beneath the entrance. Marcus pushed it open. In the corner, Sophie sat hunched, gripping her teddy bear, her cheeks marked with tears. "Sophie," she glanced up. "Uncle Marcus." He rushed to her and pulled her into his arms. "You frightened me half to death. Why did you flee?" Through whimpers, she murmured. "I simply desired to discover my father." "You came here to discover him," Sophie acknowledged. "This is where he operated. I believed if I came here, I'd sense closer to him." Marcus held her tighter. "But you understand he's not here anymore. But I miss him deeply. I desire to detect his voice again. I don't desire to forget him." "Uncle Marcus." Marcus raised her chin gently. "You'll never forget him. He's in you, every single day." "But what if I forget what he appears like?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Then observe in the mirror. You have his eyes, his smile, and his spirit. Every occasion you observe yourself, he's right there, observing back at you." Sophie burst into tears, wrapping her arms around him. "But I desire him here." Marcus held her close. "I understand. I desire my son here too, every single day." The sound of footwear reverberated down the corridor. Rachel appeared, flanked by security. The moment she observed Sophie in Marcus's arms, she raised a hand. "Halt!" Everyone became motionless. Sophie, the young girl, turned. "Mother!" Rachel rushed forward and held her firmly. "You frightened me to death, darling. I apologize, Mother. I simply desired to discover Father." Tears spilled down Rachel's cheeks. "I understand, child. I've been searching for him too, every single day." Sophie glanced up. "But I don't have Father anymore. I only have Mother and Uncle Marcus." Rachel observed Marcus, her eyes filled with appreciation. "Thank you. Thank you for discovering her." Marcus shook his head. "I didn't discover her, ma'am. She discovered me. from the very beginning. After that evening, Rachel understood she couldn't remain silent. She initiated a press gathering. That dawn, before hundreds of reporters, the CEO of Montgomery Technologies stepped up to the platform. "My name is Rachel Montgomery, and today I wish to discuss my daughter." The space descended silent. 4 months ago, I forfeited my spouse, and my daughter forfeited her father. I attempted everything to assist Sophie, employed the finest specialists, expended hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nothing operated until I encountered Marcus Bennett. She paused. He's not a physician. He's not a therapist. He's simply someone who's sensed the identical suffering my daughter senses. And there are things no classroom can instruct. A reporter raised a hand. "Mrs. Montgomery, aren't you concerned about your daughter's protection?" Rachel's voice was unwavering. "My daughter is more protected than she's ever been, not because he has a certificate, but because he has a spirit. And if this realm continues valuing credentials over compassion, perhaps we're the ones who require healing." The space remained motionless. Only the clicking of devices remained. 2 weeks afterward, Rachel announced a new initiative, Isaiah's Light, a free program for children managing with mourning, trauma, or forfeiture. She requested Marcus to lead it. "I'm not a leader," he stated. "You're the only one who can accomplish this. You comprehend these children?" Marcus finally agreed. "But it has to be designated Isaiah's Light, so my son can still be portion of it." Rachel acknowledged, agreed. 5 weeks afterward, Isaiah's Light opened. No transparent conference spaces, just a warm, comfortable space. Dense carpets, golden illumination, shelves filled with homemade playthings. On the main surface hung a photograph of Isaiah, grinning wide, his front tooth missing. Beneath it, sometimes the brightest illumination originates from the smallest spirits. During the first week, 4 children appeared. A 7-year-old boy who'd forfeited his mother, a 9-year-old girl caught between divorced parents, a 10-year-old boy bullied at lessons. Marcus sat with them. He didn't instruct, he simply listened. Then he shared a tale. Long ago there was a young star. It wasn't as luminous as the others, so it believed it was useless. But one evening a lost child wandered into the forest, and the star's faint illumination was sufficient to guide the child residents. From that evening on, the star comprehended our worth isn't measured by how luminously we shine, but by who we shine for. The children listened, eyes wide, respiration still. And in the corner, Sophie sat beside a new girl, holding her hand. "It's acceptable," Sophie murmured. "Mr. Marcus will assist you. He assisted me too." That evening, after the children had departed, Marcus and Rachel remained behind. Rachel observed Isaiah's image. "Do you ever regret it?" "Regret what?" "Remaining. Opening up again." Marcus was silent. "No. At first I believed I didn't merit to be content again. But Sophie instructed me something. That caring again doesn't indicate forgetting." Rachel acknowledged, smiling through tears. "I've learned that too, from you. I didn't accomplish anything." "You accomplished," Rachel murmured. "You demonstrated me that resilience isn't about never descending apart. It's about rising back up and assisting someone else remain with you." Friday evening, Marcus stopped by Rachel and Sophie's residence, a small, warm apartment in the South Side. Sophie opened the entrance, beaming. "Uncle Marcus, you're here." She tugged him to the kitchen. The table was arranged. Pasta, salad, toasted bread. "I created it myself," she declared. "You accomplished? It smells magnificent." During dinner, Sophie communicated excitedly. "A new boy came today. He was genuinely melancholy." But when Uncle Marcus shared his tale, he smiled. Rachel observed Marcus. "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving my daughter back to me." Marcus shook his head. "No, ma'am. She was never forfeited. I simply assisted you. Observe her again." After dinner, Sophie pulled Marcus into her room. She indicated to an illustration on the surface. 4 figures remained together: Thomas, Rachel, Sophie, and Marcus. Beside Marcus remained a small boy, holding his hand. "That's Isaiah," Sophie stated with a shy smile. I sketched him here, so he wouldn't sense isolated. Marcus went motionless. He knelt and embraced her firmly, tears flowing. But this occasion, they weren't for mourning. They were appreciation. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you deeply. 18 months afterward, Isaiah's light had expanded into 12 centers across the metropolis, reaching more than 300 children. At the anniversary celebration, Marcus was invited to communicate. "I'm not a great communicator," he began. "I'm simply a father who once forfeited his child." The hall descended motionless. 7 years ago, I forfeited Isaiah, my son, 6 years old, in a vehicle collision. At that occasion, I believed that was the conclusion. His eyes drifted to the front row, where Sophie sat beside Rachel, beaming. But then a young girl demonstrated me that caring never genuinely concludes. It only transforms form. Isaiah isn't here anymore. But he exists in every tale I share, in every child I assist. His voice fractured. And that's why Isaiah's light isn't simply for children who are suffering. It's for the grown individuals too. The ones who've forgotten that we can still care, even after our spirits have been fractured. The whole space rose to its feet. Applause thundered. Sophie rushed onto the stage, throwing her arms around him. "I care for you, Uncle Marcus." He embraced her firmly. "I care for you too, Sophie." After the ceremony, Rachel and Marcus remained on the rooftop terrace, observing out over Chicago. "Can you believe it?" Rachel stated. 18 months ago, I was a desperate mother, and you were the invisible man." Marcus smiled, and now, she turned to him. "Now we're a family, Rachel acknowledged. "Sophie observes you as her second father, and I observe you as a companion, a brother, a portion of our existences I didn't understand we required." Marcus observed her for a long duration, then acknowledged. "I desire that too. I'm simply afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of forfeiting again." Rachel squeezed his hand. "Then we'll be afraid together, and heal together." For the first occasion in 7 years, Marcus's spirit no longer sensed empty. Saturday dawn, Riverside Park. Sophie was on the swing apparatus, Rachel pushing her. Marcus sat on a nearby bench, smiling. Beside him lay a photograph album, images of Isaiah, images of Sophie, and one photograph of all three together. Not a traditional family, but one constructed from caring. Not replacement, but continuation. "Uncle Marcus, come push me," Sophie initiated. He chuckled. "Acceptable, princess, your turn." Joy filled the dawn atmosphere. Rachel observed them, tears descending. Not of sorrow, but of happiness. Sometimes extraordinary things don't originate from specialists. They originate from commonplace people, people who comprehend suffering because they've existed it. Marcus Bennett wasn't a hero. He was simply a father who forfeited his son. But through that forfeiture, he discovered another child, not to replace Isaiah, but to honor him. And Sophie, the girl nobody could reach, now rushes, chuckles, and because someone observed her, sat beside her, and didn't attempt to repair her, he simply remained, quiet, patient, caring. That's the genuine, extraordinary thing. Not healing completely, but learning to exist with the wound, together. Today, Isaiah's light operates in more than 35 cities, assisting over 6,000 children and families. The sun dipped low over the park. Sophie's joy reverberated as the swing rose higher, while Marcus and Rachel sat side by side, silent, peaceful. The tale concludes, but the healing continues. Because within each of us there is an Isaiah's light, a small flicker that may lose its direction, but still has the power to guide someone's residence.